Hi, this video is for 4th Saturday 1906 from Dimitri's diaries. We're moving right along, and today we have a real tragedy that is remarked upon in this diary entry. And as charming as I find Dimitri, I hope all of you, like myself, are also paying attention to the things that are going on in the background that sometimes he brings to the forefront, because to me, they're very interesting. Not only about the Romanovs and the court, but about life in general in Russia at that time. And yeah, there's so much to learn. There's so much to learn. We can learn from a 14-year-old. And it's interesting comparing this also to the diary entries that I've done the last 2 or 3 days from 1920, because by comparison, these diary entries from 1906 have such a feeling of normalcy about them. And we may think that, you know, life in Imperial Russia for a member of the dynasty who was treated like a demigod in the eyes of non-royal people and had a level of privilege that it's hardly possible for us to imagine, that would be anything but normal. And yet I'm finding it very much so. What's the word? The sort of tone of it. Well, you know, this is life, and this is my daily routine and that sort of thing. Whereas by comparison, in the 1920 diaries, even though Dimitri had challenges of the kind that a lot of us have with financial things and relationships, adult relationships and that sort of thing, nonetheless, it's so not normal for him or for anybody else, because of, you know, the way things were even 3 years after the revolution, being so unsettled and nobody really having a home per se, and living their life sort of in limbo, wondering if they're going to be able to go back or not. So I enjoy these diary entries just for, even though his life was not the typical life for an adolescent member of the imperial family, because of his family situation, I still find these diary entries really nice, because they're so cozy, you could say. And in fact, I remember talking to Dimitri's son, Paul Alinsky, about this issue, and I told him, well, it's difficult. It's going to be difficult for me. At that time, I was thinking of writing the biography of Dimitri, and it's going to be difficult for me, because how can I'm you know, a middle-class boy from the United States, from the suburbs. How am I ever going to be able to relate to him and his life? And Paul Alinsky said, you know, we're in the same boat. And that really surprised me, because he certainly had anything but a middle-class American childhood. But he said it was hard for me to imagine, too, the way my father was brought up, and his view of life when he was a young man, both before and after the Russian Revolution. So anyway, I actually think we can get through 2 diary entries today, but we'll see, because they're both great, but there's not a lot to discuss in either one of them. So let's start with 4th Saturday, the 4th of March, 1906. I just returned from a ride with Aunt Alex and Uncle Nicky. It was very, very nice, but it really made my ears sting. We had dinner at that palace. Nothing special happened or was said. Afterwards, I played billiards with Uncle Nicky. He beat me, of course. Ah, and what a sad thing happened. One of the officers who was with GM yesterday, Kramer, lost his 2-year-old son during the night. The poor thing. That's why there was a bad impression left over after dinner. Kramer wasn't at the parade because he was tired and left early in the morning, though his son had died at 3 in the morning. The parade was excellent. The Horse Grenadiers have very attractive uniforms. Although tomorrow is Sunday, I still need to go to bed. GM went into town with his family, and if he finds out that I stayed up so late, he'll be very unhappy. My German lesson went well, 10:45 p.m., terribly late. Yes, indeed. I think that's the latest so far that he has concluded writing his diaries. So, interesting. I guess if his ears were stinging, maybe he and Uncle Nicky and Aunt Alex were riding in an open sleigh. And it was, still winter, early March. So this whole thing about poor Kramer and his little boy, what to say about that? What to say about Dimitri's reaction to that? Maybe it sounds a little callous, but I don't think so. I think it was, it left an impression on him. He talks about there being a bad impression left over after dinner, and I think that's his way of saying that. Yeah, it kind of made him feel a little down and a little gloomy, as things like that will. But yeah, who knows? That's something to keep an eye on, because the jury's still out for me as well on that topic of how he reacted to things emotionally. And bearing in mind, of course, in mind that he's 14. But it's interesting that so Kramer, presumably his son dies in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and we don't know what the poor little thing died of, or if he'd been ill, or if it was something really sudden. But Kramer, when he gets up, he leaves naturally. He skips the regimental parade and he leaves. And Dimitri doesn't really need to mention that, does he? He wasn't at the parade because he was tired and left early in the morning. I would think he wasn't at the parade because his son had died, not because he was tired. But anyway, going on, the attractive uniforms, that's sort of a joke within scholarship on the Romanov family, that the men in the Romanov family were always just so smitten by uniforms. Maybe that's true throughout the royal European world at that time, but they seem in many instances to have viewed military service as something that they valued the spectacle, but maybe not so much the fighting. And there were exceptions to that. There were some exceptions to that. I shouldn't really even go there. Okay, one more quick diary entry. Sunday, 5th March 1906. Today was so much fun, it's simply terrible. We went to Pavlovsk, and little sleds were tied to the big sleighs, but those little sleds were much better than our sleds because they were more stable to sit on. Even today, Uncle Nicky went with us. Today, even Uncle Nicky went with us, and thanks to him, we had a really fun time. Uncle and all the children jumped from the sleighs, the court drays, which were pulling the little set sleds. He puts that in parentheses. So, jumped from the sleighs into the deep snow. It was terribly fun and very enjoyable. Overall, we spent 2 hours and 45 minutes outside, and I didn't even notice it at all. I have to go to bed now because I have lessons tomorrow, and it's late. 10:10. Okay, so charming scene. Dimitri, as you know, usually doesn't like to go to Pavlovsk, but this time it was all fun outdoor activity, which he always liked very much. And so Uncle Nicky was a fun uncle, or he could be, when he wasn't irritated by what the children were doing. He was the fun uncle. He liked to be out and doing outdoor activities and strenuous things and having fun in this instance. So yeah, great. And tomorrow we have a very long diary entry, so it's good to have gotten 2 done today. This one is actually 3 paragraphs, the one tomorrow, and it has a lot packed into it. An incident with Alexandra, that ended unfortunately, not for Dmitri. He's commenting on this. It's something he wasn't directly involved in, but he's also commenting on how he himself would have handled it, which is interesting. If I were Tsar, here's what I would have done. And then a mention of little Anastasia, the little Grand Duchess. And yeah, so good stuff to come back for. All right, see you then. Bye.